Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's episode of Intuitive Angling, and really appreciate you guys swinging by the channel to hang with me a little bit and watch the video. I think you're going to like today's episode. We're going to be talking about burning crankbaits, guys, which is a staple power fishing technique in the summertime of the year. Going to give you guys some tips and advice on it, give you guys a good foundation, definitely allow you to catch some fish on it if you've never used this technique before. Also, guys, before we get started, just a quick reminder, we've got Father's Day coming up next week. Anybody interested in getting a good Father's Day present? SolarBat has 25% off during the Father's Day sale on my SolarBat RB2 and RB3 series sunglasses. So if you guys would like to get a pair or buy a pair for somebody else, I'll put the SolarBat link in the description, so I really appreciate that. Okay, guys, when you're talking about burning a square bill, this is a pretty wide-ranging topic here. Now, the whole thing about burning a square bill, if you're not familiar with it, it basically means reeling a square bill extremely fast. Burning it is reeling it really, really fast. Now, the thing about this is a really good technique in the summertime of the year when the water temperatures get warm. Even though in the water temperatures, a lot of people think that, okay, the water temperature is warmer, that means the fish are more active and aggressive because they're cold-blooded. That's not the case a lot of times in the summertime, because a lot of times these fish will be in shallow water and they'll live in shallow water, but they feed at night heavily throughout the summer. And the only way that you can really trigger them during the daytime is by creating a reaction strike. And you create a reaction strike from speed. And speed comes from burning that crankbait. This is a staple technique that anybody that's fished square bills very long or very familiar with, it works really good. So first of all, let's talk a little bit about the conditions that you have to have for this to work. You got to have sort of a mix of the right type of water clarity and the right type of cover. It'll work on about any man-made lake. I've never done any good on it on natural bodies of water, but any any man-made lake that you have that has, typical, man-made structures and varying water clarities, this is going to work. So what you want to look for is you need to find the dirtiest water in your lake. And that could be anywhere between, say, down to 4 inches up to maybe 3 feet. So sort of that, ideally, I like 1 to 3 foot visibility. And a perfect scenario, if you say, Randy, what is the perfect burning crankbait scenario? I would say give me 12 to 15 inches of water visibility with shallow wood or rock cover. This is going to be the key thing. Now, in order to catch and burn in a crankbait a lot of times, you really have to bounce this thing off of objects. And I like to come past something, whether it be the corner of a dock or a stump or lay down or maybe the edge of a grass bed, someplace where that bass is hiding, specifically in the shade, where it's ready to ambush any prey that comes by, from an opportunistic point. So that's sort of the mood and the personality that the fish have to be in with that. Type of day, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter if you got sun or clouds out. The main thing is you got to have that right water clarity. Okay, the two different type of crankbaits I use a homemade balsa version. This is made by my buddy up at Truman Lake named Dave Ryan, Dave's Custom Baits. He makes a nice balsa one. And then I use the Megabass S-Crank 1.5. I use both of these. Now, if I'm bouncing it off of wood, like heavy wood, like lay down trees and all that type of stuff, a lot of times I'll go to the balsa because it comes through wood a little bit better, it's a little bit more buoyant. And if I'm fishing around, some type of rock like rocky bank, riprap, maybe stumps, edge of dock, something where the crankbait doesn't have to climb over limbs, then I'll use the Megabass S-Crank 1.2. And also, guys, I'll link these in my tackle warehouse in the description if you want to get a few. Another thing you'll find out about it is the size of the square bill sort of changes throughout the summer. Earlier in the summer, like in June, July, type of stuff, I liked a little bit larger one, like the 3-inch Dave's Custom balsa here. But as the summer goes on, like into July, August, and September, I go down in size. I'll go to the 1.5 Megabass and even smaller to the 1.2. As the summer wears on, it gets hotter, the water levels start to fall a little bit. You will always catch more on a smaller square bill crankbait. So try to use a small one as the summer progresses. Now, the retrieve with this, guys, as far as how you want to retrieve this, is the whole key to it. Casting accuracy and retrieve. I'm going to sort of show you how to do it. By the way, guys, this is that. I know this sounds like a plug, but this is that Evolve rod sleeve. This thing is freaking awesome. You guys heard me talking about it. I'll link this in the tackle warehouse description too if you need a good rod sleeve. But the main thing, guys, I'll just sort of demonstrate with this a little bit, is the retrieve on a burning crankbait is you make your cast out there and you want to crank it about like this, stop and go. Crank it 5 or 6 times, stop and go. 5 or 6 times, stop and go. In the summertime, you'll hardly never, ever get a bite. If you just throw that square bill out there and just start cranking it in like that, you might catch one just once in a while. But if you burn it like this fast and get that thing where it's just like, it's going just all over the place like that, that's what's going to generate the strike. So when you're burning this thing, you've got to be hitting something. I don't care if it's rock or wood. So this thing comes down there and it hits something, it bounces off it, and it reflects and deflects up to the side, comes back down, it starts to hunt side to side. You know, it hits something else, deflects off to the side, and it's just going crazy back and forth. So keep this thing going as fast as you can through the water. And I don't mean like reel it as fast as you possibly can, because you can actually reel it too fast, but you want to use a medium fast or fast retrieve with a stop and go on it. Very critical with that. Now, a couple other elements here is the equipment setup you throw this on is super critical too. You got 1 or 2 options with this. You can either use like your typical 7-foot rod, like a medium heavy action with monofilament line that has more stretch to it. But if you don't want to use monofilament line, like I just use Seaguar and Vizex all the time, fluorocarbon, you need to go to a soft tip rod. So go to a medium action rod that has a really, really slow tip on it that loads up from about halfway up. And the reason that you need that slow tip or the monofilament line is a lot of times you're making short casts around targets with these square bills in the summertime. So you don't have a lot of stretch. You're not a long way from the fish. So when that fish hits it, you know, as you're burning it, a lot of times they don't get it real good. If you're burning it real fast, they don't have time to eat it real good. So you need that stretch in the line or the soft rod in order to give them just that extra second to get that a little bit more in their mouth. Also, guys, colors, pretty basic on colors. Like I said, if the water is, you know, really dirty, you know, I'm using, you know, the brighter colors like a chartreuse side, black back. If I've got a little bit cleaner water, like up towards 3 feet, I'm using some type of a shad pattern. And if it's sort of in between, sort of got that 2-foot visibility, I like some type of a perch pattern. But anyway, guys, try it. Burning a crankbait, a really good way to catch them. It's also a really good way to catch big ones. Burning a crankbait will trigger a big fish that will not bite with a slower retrieve. And it's just been one of my favorite techniques, one of the most productive summer techniques that I've ever used for shallow fishing in the summer. So hope it helps out. We'll talk later.